Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach COLIN here. We got Joe Rogan sitting with a comedian who was completely inspired by Jordan Peterson, and he's going to talk a little bit about that, the way that he was watching Jordan Peterson's clips and speeches and conferences the same way so many of us did. I know I was inspired heavily by Jordan Peterson. I also felt a connection when he started talking about men and what they go through and the emotional moments that he's had on camera. And this comedian went through that as well. Now, I'm going to talk about that, show that clip. Then we're going to move on to, in my opinion, how sad it is that he went from this person who can inspire a comedian to do what he's doing right now, basically be a troll with his name out there, trolling the woke crowd, and how now he has been calling for the unmasking of everyone on Twitter, which will lead to an unmasking of everybody online. Now, I know I already touched on this a little bit with one of these episodes where I was talking about how Michaela Peterson was actually calling for straight up censorship. Jordan Peterson was calling for the unmasking, but I figured I would show just a little bit more of where Jordan Peterson was and where he is today. So let's get into this whole thing. It could be a sad story. I hope he's still on our side. I know that he is deep down inside. I think he's just going through some turmoil right now, but let's get into this clip.
It's a hill I'll die on. I don't care. I was like, this is war. We are in a full-blown culture war, and I would give up everything for it, because I also owe it to, people that can't fight for themselves. I had this 10-year period where this shit wasn't going on. I built up my acting chops, my comedy chops, with nobody saying you can't do that, you can't say that, and so I had this kind of, this energy. I go, I have to. No one's going to do it for you. I saw Jordan Peterson, fight for that Bill C-16 thing. Yeah. And I go, holy shit, watching, if it's worth watching the congressional hearing in Canada, where he's explaining you can't compel speech. You can't tell somebody you have to say my pronouns or you go to jail. He's like, this is going to get out of fucking control. Everything he said came true.
Yeah. I had him on at the beginning of that stuff. And I remember people saying to me, like, why do you care about what happens, these obscure moments that happen in these universities? Mm-hmm. And I had Brett Weinstein on after the Evergreen College thing, same kind of thing. And I was saying, like, you don't know, these people are going to graduate. Do you understand what, this is the future? Yeah. Like, these attitudes that are these kids are being indoctrinated into these mindsets, they're going to expand, and they're going to be involved in the workplace, and they're going to be involved in politics and culture. Like, this mind virus is going to go everywhere. And you got to say what it is. You got to call it out when you see it. That this is kind of crazy. And obviously, all these years later, I mean, this was like 2016, I guess.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Well, he's part of the reason I pursued this, Jordan, because he's like, you have to tell the truth. That's it. Tell the truth. Or tell the truth, or at least don't lie. It's like you can't bloody compel my speech.
That's pretty good.
Clean your damn room. It's like finger a cat, rescue your father from the belly. It's like, it's like, And
how'd you develop that one? That's a good one.
You know why? Because I was in a little emasculated little he/him living in New York. And I would sit in my room and watch his lectures with my fucking head would explode. I go, holy, this is all the shit that I think and feel, but I haven't been able to articulate.
He's a brilliant guy.
And my life changed forever. Once I heard him say that, tell the truth, at least don't lie. And my life has changed. That video of him with Kathy Newman, have you seen that?
That's amazing.
I watch that every week.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a master class in how people will try to bend your word. And he does not bend. He'll be like, well, women need to contend in the workplace. So what you're saying is women should just be raped in the break room. It's like no. It's like, I'm not saying that.
It's a funny conversation because it's all that gotcha shit gone wrong, because you're doing it with a skilled person, a skilled linguist, and someone who really understands what he's saying and has a deep understanding of the history of Marxist and Leninist philosophy and what it leads to, and what communism and socialism actually leads to. What you're actually saying is by forcing people to comply, there's only one way you force people to comply, and that's violence. That is the only way. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we're going to put you in jail. What happens if I resist? We're going to kill you. It gets to that. It gets to violence. We're going to grab you. We're going to hunt you down. We're going to put you in a cage. And then we're going to force everybody else to comply as well. And this is what he's saying. It's like, you cannot go down this path if you do not know where it leads to. You can't think you're being virtuous by standing up for the disenfranchised and imposing this, especially the gender pronoun thing, which at that point in time, there was 78 different recognized gender pronouns.
Yeah.
Like, who knows how many there are now? Like, now it's nuts.
Thousands.
It's just like people just make things up, and that's what's the fun thing about TikTok. China is so clever.
Oh, my God.
They're so good. TikTok is so good. They're so smart what they did, and then to show you these outrageous people over and over again with fake eyelashes, reading stories to kids, just freaking everybody out with a bunch of different, I'm two-spirit and I'm this and that and I'm trans-masculine with the whole thing is just nuts.
And then shutting down free speech. I mean, I've been banned shut down for 3 years. They froze I was going all my pandemic shit. Oh, they
on
shut,
TikTok. They banned you. What'd you do?
They don't have to tell you. They don't besides being white.
White boy.
I was texting while white. They don't have to tell you. That's part of when you sign up.
Right. Especially TikTok.
And it's communist. It's a communist Chinese. We are It's an act of war living in our pocket.
I don't use it.
I can't believe it.
It's the one I don't use.
Well, I was telling you, I changed my name to queer disabled comedian. And suddenly they let me. I started getting ad offers from TikTok. They're just like they. And then when I did the bit about where I come out on stage as gay, that was the first video that they let kind of through.
Is it because the algorithm let it through?
Probably.
Did it get reviewed eventually?
Yeah, it just got removed again. I just posted it again because I'm like, F you, so I keep posting these things over and over.
You just post it under different names?
Yeah.
Yeah, my youngest daughter's obsessed with the vegan teacher. The vegan teacher's this crazy lady on TikTok that's like this crazy vegan lady, and she keeps getting banned. And so they keep bringing her, she keeps making up new accounts and coming back. So that's
what I do on stage. I keep coming up with new identities to see what I can get away with.
What is this? Oh, this is his.
Yeah, that's been frozen for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and look at the first video. Like that's how many views all of my videos used to get.
3.1 million.
Yeah, I was blowing up. Like I was getting like 10, 20,000 followers a day, and then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the difference between a comic selling out a theater and half filling a club.
Yeah.
That type of exposure.
Oh, for sure. Especially a comic like you is actually very funny. When you have these messages that come and say that your account's being frozen, they don't give you any reason. Do they say non-compliance or community standards?
They can say disinformation, hateful behavior.
But what did they say?
Well, each one is different. You know what I mean? Like each video.
Well, when they pulled your account, what did they say?
Oh, yeah. Hateful behavior.
Hateful.
My Instagram got pulled too.
No.
Oh, bro, that's when I lost it.
When did that? Because
that was the only.
It's back now, right?
It's back. By the grace of God, I met somebody outside the Comedy Cellar, and she goes, "Can I follow you on Instagram?" I said, "No." I'm like, "They just banned my account," and that was the only way I was making money was selling tickets from my Instagram videos and going on the road. And this girl said, "She goes, I just quit working there," and I said, "Can they just turn you off and on?" She goes, "Yeah." I go, "Can you have my account turned back on?" She goes, "Absolutely." I gave her my information. She sent it to somebody on Instagram. They just flipped the switch back on. The next day I was back.
So is it just completely subjective based on what an employee decides that you're offensive?
Yes. They have a whole fucking department. And if they go, well, they got 2 complaints or whatever, he's being transphobic or whatever the shit is going on at the time. And that you can't have that with art.
No, especially not comedy.
Especially not comedy.
I mean, the whole idea is to push limits, and the whole idea is to like walk that crazy line and say wild shit for fun. It's just for fun. These aren't like, you can't put them in the same categories as hate speech because no one's trying to be hateful. They're just trying to get laughs, and they're getting laughs oftentimes by saying something that the audience knows they don't mean. They're saying it because it's funny, not because it's true, not because they want you to think it's true, because it's a ridiculous thing to say, and it's a funny thing to say. And when you hear the audience laugh, that means it worked. It was effective. It doesn't mean you can then put that in print and say that this is an anti-LBGTQT.
Who gets to decide?
AI2.
Who gets to decide? It's like,
who gets to decide? Indeed. That's amazing hearing that story because I was exactly that same way. Just listening to Jordan Peterson stuff, feeling very alone in the experience of, well, for me, I don't know what it's like to grow up with a father, but you grow up without a father, you're kind of just like, I guess, this is a weird thing that I'm feeling all this pressure and that I'm not sure what to do. And, you just kind of watch Jordan Peterson. I remember when it all changed for me. There was this one clip where he was talking about how little encouragement it takes to inspire somebody, how it just takes a little bit of encouragement. He started crying because he was like, so many men are just missing that little bit of encouragement. And I was like, oh, this guy's the best. This guy's the best. That was it. Just binged it exactly like this guy was talking about. Just sat there and just watched video after video, clip after clip. And then the books came into play, started listening to the books, reading the books, and it just changed my life. And one thing that changed my life, I'll just jump ahead, is Jordan Peterson has this thing. And again, I'm going to say some things where I'm a little disappointed with Jordan Peterson, but keep in mind, I love Jordan Peterson. But the one thing that he said that changed my life, he goes, you should write a list of all of the stupid things that you do that you know you shouldn't do. And it sounded so silly, but I did it. And just that exercise of thinking, what do I do that's dumb? What do I do that I shouldn't do? And just that exercise, I filled a page, of course. If you're really honest with yourself, you can fill a page or two for sure. And I just started to kind of knock those things out. And when I would coach people later on in life, years later, I would have them do that same thing. I would say, how about we talk about all the stupid things you do that you know you shouldn't do? And it always blew people away. Such a simple thing like that. So wild. But yeah, let's get into Jordan Peterson. One thing that he brought up was the C-16 protest. I found this clip from before he even got to sit in front of the Canadian politicians protesting this whole thing. He was at a school at first, and this is the clip that really made people go, what is going on? Because he had this is where he gets branded with this angry demeanor because they took his microphone away. So he had to yell. So they were like, oh, this guy's racist and yelling. And oh, the way that they painted him was so terrible. You know what? Let's end with that clip, okay? I want to end with that clip. But I want to go into this a little bit because if Jordan Peterson knows, if he knows everything that you're about to hear, the fact that he's asking for an unmasking of people, he has to be able to connect. Again, maybe he's not seeing clearly, but you have to be able to connect everything you're going to hear in terms of talking about tyrants, totalitarian societies. You have to be able to connect that to the unmasking of people, because you'll hear in this clip, and I'm going to make the point that you can't have this society, this totalitarian society, without people knowing exactly who you are. But it'll make more sense in a second. Let's just play this clip.
All these innocent Russians are the victims of the tyrant, and that's a totalitarian state. And there's some truth in that, because power structures get extraordinarily warped and punitive in totalitarian states, but it's completely preposterous. 40 years. And in a totalitarian state, no one ever says what they have to say. You know, we have this theory about totalitarianism. It's sort of the theory we have about Putin right now. It's like there's a lot of innocent Russians, and there's Putin. And he's the tyrant, and all these innocent Russians are the victims of the tyrant, and that's a totalitarian state. And there's some truth in that, because power structures get extraordinarily warped and punitive in totalitarian states, but it's a completely preposterous model of totalitarianism. The reason that totalitarianism is total is because everyone in a totalitarian state lies about absolutely everything all the time to everyone. To themselves, to their wife or husband, to their children, to the other members of their family, to their friends, to their colleagues. It's the old Russian joke. They pretend to pay us, and we pretend to work. Yeah, ha ha. Ha ha, till everyone starves. Very funny. And you think, well, does everybody really lie all the time in a totalitarian state? And if you ask that question, the first proper response to that is, you wouldn't ask that question if you knew anything at all about what you were talking about. because the evidence is pretty damn clear. In places like East Germany, we went and visited, Tammy and I, when we were in Berlin, we had this very interesting day. We went and visited the museum of the Stasi, that's secret police in East Germany. And the Germans are pretty damn efficient. When they go in for the whole secret police thing, they do it in that hyper-efficient German way. And so we went to this complex of administrative buildings that was quite large and walked through these 1970s offices where the Stasi operated. And it was a huge complex, huge prison-like complex. And it was run by this guy who was a dissident in East Germany when he was 17, who was arrested and put in there for a year, along with his girlfriend, who they tortured in front of him. And now he runs the whole museum, so that was his life. And this bureaucratic infrastructure, hyper-developed in the Germanic way, was only part of the Stasi network in Eastern Germany. There were huge buildings devoted to the secret police all over Germany. Why? Well, 1/3 of the Eastern Germans were government informers. 1/3. So that means if you had a family of 6 people, 2 of them were informing to the government. And so what did that mean exactly? Well, it meant they listened to everything you said. And then if you ever said anything that would be displeasing to everyone else who was lying 100% of the time, which would really mean anything that was ever true, even remotely, then you could be reported for that. And that wouldn't go very well for you, let's say. But also, if you were the person who did the reporting, well, then you'd get a reward. You know, it was very common in the Soviet Union, where there was a terrible shortage of apartments and people were crammed into these small living areas. Because how much space does someone need, after all, when there's more important things to be concerned with? And one of the most effective ways to get a new apartment would be just to denounce your neighbor down the hall and get them sent off to the gulag, kicking and screaming at 3 o'clock in the morning in front of their family, stripped naked, so they couldn't struggle to, effectively, and then be rewarded by the government granting you an apartment. That's a lovely basis for social organization. And so, totalitarian state is a state that's in the grip of the lie. And so, what that means for each of us is that every time you lie, this is the truth of the matter, every time you lie, you've just allowed yourself to become possessed by the same tyrannical spirit that's at the core of the totalitarian state. And you might think, no, I'm lying. It's like, no, the spirit of the lie is making itself manifest within you, and you are participating in your own possession. That's what's happening. And so I'm way more afraid of that than I am of the consequences of saying what I have to say.
Okay, so sorry about that. I've never had to go to the washroom that bad, ever. And I don't do edits on this show, so my apologies. But I'm back, and he was talking about the spirit of the lie near the end. But the reason I show that clip is because when you look at the totalitarian societies, why do they lie? Well, they lie because the government knows exactly who they are. And again, I'm going along with what Jordan Peterson wants because I always show my face. I make videos like this every day. You can see me. You may not know where I am. You may not know my exact location, but you can see me. COLIN is my actual first name. I'm not making it up, right? So you can see me, and I'm fully aware of that. And God forbid, somebody didn't like what I was saying, some entity, some organization, they could come for me. But I don't think that should have to happen to every single person in the world. Every single person that's on a social media platform that has about, 200 plus million users. Again, the reason that everybody lies in a totalitarian society is because the government knows exactly who they are. So they know where to go. They know how to find this person. And the thing about it is, the unmasked, or the masked people, the anonymous people who have notoriety and who are pure just obscure, they troll, yes. But, and that links to Jordan Peterson's whole theory about Machiavellian behavior and psychopath behavior and all that stuff, but they also whistleblow. And yeah, there's not an extreme amount of whistleblowers, but there are a large amount of people who speak truth. A large amount of people who really do hardcore research and bring people information that they would not have otherwise every single day. And I don't know if they'd be able to bring that information forward if everybody knew who they were. There are some people I follow, like I think Chief Nerd. I think it's Chief Nerd is his name. I've never seen this guy's face before. Never. But he is at the forefront. I think even Rogan follows him. He is at the forefront of information on X. Anytime something happens, you can go to his page and he will be up on it. And if he's not, give it a few minutes, he'll have something going. One of the first people to talk about Trump's assassination attempt, And he doesn't do what I do, but he brings you just, large clips. Not even large clips, but you know what I mean? There's so many people who are truth seekers, who are really fighting the good fight online. And I don't know if they'd be able to if people just knew who they were. Not just the fact of their jobs and their family, but who knows what an organization, an entity, an agency might do if that person was at the forefront. For people like me, I'll go through that if it comes to that. I'm fine with that. But not everybody is, and not everybody should have to be. So I think it's really sad. And again, if you saw this already, then you already know. But Jordan Peterson, for him to be saying to Dear Elon Musk, X has a lot of this because basically people made some images of him saying that he's a rat because he was calling people rats. And he was calling people rats so people knew what to do with his face and his image. They can make this picture of him. People could do that to me. People could do that to anybody that they see online with their face. But because they did that to him, he said there's no consequence for their psychopathic behavior on this platform, and casual anonymity, I think I'm saying that word right, has to do a lot with it. Separate the real people with the verified and genuine IDs from the pathetic, cowardly, anonymous troll demons. The thing is, they're not all troll demons. These are just the people that decided to mess around with him. And very much like comedians, like Joe Rogan was saying, they're doing it because it's funny. They know it's going to be something funny for people who feel like they feel to see. Like, Jordan Peterson, I love Jordan Peterson. So when I see this, I'm like, ugh, why would someone do that? I don't know. Someone did that to AOC. I might just be like, ha, that's funny. I wouldn't then be like, oh no, everybody needs to be unmasked. But you know what I mean? I just think this is a very, very bad path to go down. Because then when everybody's unmasked on the internet, we then have things like the Stasi that he was talking about, the secret police like he was talking about. They can come to you because they know exactly who you are. Because when he's talking about genuine IDs, we're not talking about faces. We're talking about faces, names, addresses. And once you have a face, a name, and an address, that's a crazy database. Especially with AI technology and face recognition, this is a dangerous path to go down. So the fact that this guy knows about totalitarian societies and knows about how the government knows everybody, and that's how they come after you for the things that you say, and then also in the same breath is like, that's what we need today, he must be able to make that connection. And he's sitting back, and this is the thing, and this is exactly what the left was doing. When the left was celebrating Trump getting prosecuted, Rogan and so many people touched on the fact that this seems fun now until it happens to you. Cancel culture seems real fun until it starts happening to you. And now all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what's going on here? This is terrible. I don't know, man. It just seems so bad. Like, I don't even know how else to phrase it. It just seems really, really bad. Not to mention where these IDs go. Apparently these IDs on on X, at least, go to this Israeli entity. So it's not even like, and maybe this goes under who cares where it goes. I don't want it to go anywhere. And I understand that completely. But it goes to this Israeli entity. And I don't know if it would be better if it went to an American entity. But it's just crazy that Jordan Peterson, and maybe he doesn't know this, is asking for all of these people, and it's worldwide, it's not just American, but it's a large American base on X, is going to have all of their faces, addresses, and names uploaded into this entity that is outside of America. I don't think that's a good way to do things either. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that I'll bring up lastly. He has to understand, because we've all heard Jordan Peterson talk about cancel culture. He has to understand where this leads. If people's faces, names, addresses are all there for some entity to have, but even just the fact of someone's name and face being attached to their Twitter account, okay? What does that lead to? Let me just pull this up really quick, because I don't agree with what they're doing. I love this account, but I don't agree with what they're doing right now. And there have been calls for them to stop doing this. There's been a lot of calls for them to stop doing this. Here, there's an account called Libs of TikTok. And for the longest time since the whole Trump assassination attempt, let's see, did they delete this? No, they just post a whole lot. They have been going and canceling people like crazy. They've been on this crusade where they are posting people's names, posting their faces, and then asking the places that they work for what they think of this behavior. Now, Jordan Peterson has to know that that is going to be the next step, if that's what he's asking for. See, this is actually one of those posts. So this is city councilwoman, and maybe she needs to be held accountable because she's a councilwoman. Maybe, right? And they just keep on doing this. They've been doing this for a while. They keep finding people's names and faces. This is another one. This is a perfect Marty Walsh, right? So they keep finding people. They keep finding their names, what their Facebooks look like, their faces, and then they're turning, if you can see here, it says right here, he's a professor, an assistant professor at Berkeley. Walsh is not only disappointed that the PA assassin missed, but he also hopes that there's another crazy copycat shooter. Now, that is a terrible thing for someone to think, but this is what it leads to. This is what this whole thing leads to. Oh, give me their face and their name. Separate the troll demons. Well, you could consider what this guy just said as being a troll demon. And now what's happening to him, for sure what's going to happen to him, is he's going to get fired. They tagged Berkeley in this. They're showing Berkeley. They're saying to Berkeley, like it says right there, how is Berkeley College feeling about their faculty member promoting the assassination of a presidential candidate? And I think it's disgusting. I think it's absolutely disgusting. But the fact that they're doing this is going to get this guy fired. This is cancel culture. This is what they're doing right now. They're doing this a lot. There are so many. There's another one. They've been doing this like crazy for weeks. For weeks they've been doing this. Here's another one. And they're getting people fired. I don't think that's a good thing to do. Hi. And they're tagging the school. Did you see this? I don't think this is a good thing. What Jordan Peterson is suggesting leads to more of this. More and more. Breaking. James Comer has issued a subpoena to secret. Oh, that's something else. That is actually big news, though. They slowed down on it recently, but as soon as this happened to Trump, they went on a spree just identifying every single person they possibly could. This is dangerous. It's dangerous when the left does it. It's dangerous when the right does it. And it's especially dangerous when someone like Jordan Peterson suggests it. That's when it becomes, in my opinion, the most dangerous. Like, look at this. They've been doing it for days now, just tagging people. Boom. Here's another woman. Right? Jennifer Ripper, a teacher at an elementary school. This is very sad, blah, blah, blah. Any comment on this? They just keep doing it. And yes, what she said was absolutely terrible. You know? Looks like he almost got taken out. Damn it, he missed. My thoughts exactly. It's like, yeah, she's a terrible lady to be saying that, you know? But when they do this, this is the unmasking that Jordan Peterson's talking about. This is what it leads to. Look at this. This is just a mass cancel culture crusade. And I get it. I think anybody that wants to see, I don't care if it's Trump or Biden. You're celebrating someone not getting hit with a bullet, you're gross. Absolutely gross. I don't care if it's Israeli, Palestinian, president, former president. You're disgusting. You want something like that to happen to somebody. Right? And then this is what happened. This is unacceptable. Look, they got this person fired. They themselves single-handedly got this person fired. I'm just saying, the fact that this man who said all these things that we just heard seemingly has no idea what it's going to lead to, I can't give him the benefit of that doubt. He's too smart. He's one of the smartest people that we have access to in the world right now. He's one of the most read person on communist countries and totalitarian societies. He knows where this leads, but he's mad. He's angry that they're coming after him. And now all of a sudden his tune is completely changed. And it's crazy because he's inspired people like Joe Rogan, like the comedian that he just had on, myself. He's inspired so many people to be champions of freedom of speech, to be champions of giving the people the right to be anonymous, to the right to be on stage as a comedian and say vulgar things. He's inspired so many of us. But the road that he's going down now is no good. Now, I will end it with this clip. Again, this is what got him branded as being an angry man, because he was yelling at this protest. But it's only because they took his microphone away, because there was people yelling shame and messing with his sound system. So he had no choice but to handle it like this. And this Jordan Peterson, this version of Jordan Peterson, this is what it's about. This is what should truly inspire you. This is what we should all strive to be like. He's in front of a bunch of people who do not agree with him, and he's protesting things. And right now, you may not understand, why do I care about this? This is exactly the thing that Joe Rogan was talking about, what they were saying to Jordan Peterson. They're like, why do you care? Because I can see where it leads. Jordan Peterson has taught me enough that I know exactly where what he is suggesting leads to. And it's not a world that we want to live in. Listen to this.
I thought you don't like cops, though.
But also
Real mature.
We need some men here, people. Men need to stop this nonsense. He's brilliant. For real. He's brilliant.
okay, let's try this again. Right. So there's a reason I'm defending freedom of speech. And the reason for that is quite straightforward. The reason I'm defending freedom of speech is because that's how people with different opinions settle their opinions in a civil society. And if we lose that, we'll lose so much you can't imagine. Now here's what's happened with Bill C-16 and the surrounding legislation. Free speech is the mechanism by which we keep our society functioning. It's a consequence of free speech and the ability to speak. People can put their finger on problems, articulate what those problems are, solve them, and come to a consensus. And we risk losing that. Now, you can say there should be reasonable restrictions on free speech, and that's the case. You shouldn't be allowed to yell fire in a crowded theater. And reasonable people can discuss and debate what those restrictions should be. But we can't debate the fact that putting restrictions on free speech is something dangerous beyond comprehension. And that's what we're faced with. Now, we've had laws passed in this country that regulate what people can say. What people can't say. And that's reasonable. But it seems to me that we're in danger of crossing a line. With Bill C-16 and its surrounding legislation, it's the first time I've seen in our legislative history where people are attempting to make us speak their language. And that's not something that I'm willing to do. Now, the radical left activists are trying to turn this into an argument about sexual politics. And it's only nominally about sexual politics. It's about language that's designed to control our freedom of expression.
Man, very, very inspiring stuff. And again, right now he's fighting for freedom of speech, and that has been a fight that he has gone on and done very well in. And I think the next fight, you know, especially if he keeps making these calls, has to be freedom to be anonymous online, because we know where it leads. He knew where it led when they were trying to compel him to use pronouns. And I think there's a lot of us that could see where it's going to lead if all of a sudden X has to unmask everybody, and then Meta, and then YouTube, and then search engines, and then you can't be on your computer. And then the next thing you know, you can't cover your camera on your laptop. You can't cover your camera on your phone because they need to verify that you're the person who is attached to the ID that's attached to this computer. And then they need to scan your face really quickly. And you're not allowed to all of a sudden, you know, turn that camera off or anything like that. It has to be on. It has to watch you 24/7. It's a slippery road that it goes down. And it's all very dystopian in my view. And again, it seems like, what are you talking about? Well, I can see where this leads. And there's a lot of people, as Jordan Peterson was doing that, there was a lot of people saying, what are you talking about? Who cares? Just use the pronouns or suffer the consequences. And right now, I'm standing up to this. This is not something that we need to have happen. This is something that can be very bad for everybody. We're talking about people getting unmasked, knowing what someone's name is, obviously going to where they work if you hear them say something that you don't like, and trying to get them fired, trying to take away their livelihood. All of that unknowingly, I guess. Again, I can't give him the benefit of the doubt. He's too smart. All of that censors people's speech. And that's when you start living in the grip of that lie that he was talking about. So that's my TED Talk. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. It helps the channel tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.